Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the fall of the ZiG. Zimbabwe's government tries to reassure the country that its sixth attempt at a stable currency since the nightmare years of hyperinflation is still a viable bet. Just a few months since its introduction, and the ZiG's tumble has been pretty disquieting. Also, there are concerns that Ghana could see a spike in cocoa smuggling as Ivory Coast hikes its price of raw cocoa. It is the starting point of the production of chocolate. And after a long period of erratic weather, West Africa's two top producers of the raw material have seen wholesale prices triple in a year. And in Kenya, a skeleton billed as being the oldest complete human remains ever found at the heart of the country's latest tourism drive. But people living near where the Turkana Boy was found say that they feel sidelined. But first, the world's youngest currency is still facing some pretty awkward growing pains. Just 5 months old, and Zimbabwe's ZiG was devalued by 43% last Friday and has just continued to weaken since. Not a great indicator of its viability for a population that still seems to prefer carrying out transactions in foreign currencies. But during Wednesday's State of the Nation address, President Emmerson Mnangagwa tried to persuade Zimbabwe that there is still some glimmer of hope to the ZiG's longer-term prospects.
Currency stabilization is at the core of macroeconomic stability. The adoption of the Zimbabwe gold, the ZiG, in April 2024 this year, was an important step towards stabilizing the domestic currency anchored by our gold and precious metal reserves.
Well, Nyasha Chingono was there as Mnangagwa made his speech on Wednesday. He joins us now. Now, Nyasha, first of all, give us a sense of why the ZiG has had such a hard time since it was introduced. Mnangagwa said that it may not even be all that bad and that devaluation might actually be a good thing. Are you convinced?
Thanks, Georgia. The ZiG has faced major headwinds. Was introduced about 5 months ago. We're seeing it fell about over 80% in recent weeks. The major reason why the ZiG has failed to spark on the market is because there's been an increased demand for the US dollar on the market because of grain imports that Zimbabwe has been conducting because of the drought that has been occurring this year. So the ZiG has faced pressures, and we saw our authorities last week devaluing the currency by 43%, and it has been plunging ever since. I know the president today has been trying to inspire confidence, but the writing is on the wall. The currency is facing real trouble on the market.
So do you think Mnangagwa managed to be at all convincing to Zimbabweans looking for some sign that maybe, there is some positives in the ZiG's future? Do you think that there was anything to take away to make people feel a bit more reassured about the prospect of the new currency?
Let me ask him to say that there were high hopes ahead of this SONA today. That the president was going to address, the real needs of the people of Zimbabwe, the people on the streets who have lost almost half of their incomes since last Friday when the currency was devalued. Mnangagwa's address started off, on a positive note, talking about how they're going to import much grain to help starving citizens, and also that there's going to be a wheat harvest. But he could not shy away from the hot topic of the day, which is the currency that is not doing well. I do not think that he really inspired confidence. He just said that the currency is still fully backed by gold, and they're going to put measures to continue to back the currency. But it not the speech was devoid of real measures, to keep this currency afloat. And also, it did not speak to the issues of, retaining value in terms of the salaries of the populace, especially the civil servants who have lost half of their currency, half of their salaries since last week. So we can say that there were high hopes, but there was not much in terms of a policy movement going forward.
Thank you so much. Nasha Chingono there speaking to us from Harare. Now, divers and volunteers are still desperately searching for survivors, and more than 100 people are still missing in northwestern Nigeria after their boat went down on the Niger River on Monday night. The overloaded vessel capsized in Niger State as it was bringing passengers back from a festival. Samuel Okoye tells us more.
The boat's mishap happened in Niger State in northern Nigeria. Officials say the victims are mainly women and children. Abubakar Dakani, spokesman of the Mokwa local government area where the accident happened, said 60 bodies have been recovered. The Director General of the Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Abdullahi Baba Ara, said the boat was carrying approximately 300 passengers with about 150 of them missing. The boat mishap happened on the River Niger as the passengers traveled to attend a religious festival. The cause of the accident is not immediately clear, but there are suggestions that the boat was loaded beyond its capacity, and this might have contributed to the accident. Boat mishaps with high death tolls are common in Nigeria. The accidents occur mostly in the northern parts of the country, where people rely on boat transportation due to the absence of a reliable road transportation system. Most of the accidents are caused by unsafe boats, overloading, and the absence of safety regulations like the compulsory use of life jackets. One of the most recent serious incidents occurred about a month ago when a boat capsized in Zamfara State, killing 40 people. Despite pledges to make water transportation safer, authorities are yet to make any tangible change.
Sam Olokoya there for us in Lagos. Now, Aliou Cisse, the football coach who led Senegal to triumph in the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations and guided the squad through to the last 16 of the last 2 World Cups, is parting ways with the national team. He took over in 2015, but despite the successes of his last 9 years, will not be having his contract renewed, reportedly at the request of the sports minister, Kadi Diéné-Gueye. Now, Cisse had been under increasing pressure after the Lions of Teranga's surprise exit from the 2023 Cup of Nations when they lost on penalties to hosts Ivory Coast. He may soon be gone, but his supporters say he's left some big boots to fill.
He stayed with the team for a long time. He made us win trophies. He did a lot for the team.
Recently, he used systems that people didn't understand well, but he did good work leading the team. Out of 100 matches, he got 77 victories.
We've had Western trainers who brought us nothing. It's thanks to Aliou Cisse that we enjoyed victory at the Africa Cup of Nations.
Now, there are concerns that Ghana could see a spike in cocoa smuggling in response to neighbouring Ivory Coast's recent hike in the price of raw cocoa. Now, the two countries are the world's top producer of cacao, and Yamoussoukro has this week set a record price of 1,800 CFA francs per kilo. That's about 2.7 euros. Now, that's a 20% hike, meaning it's now more lucrative for cocoa pods to be sold in Ivory Coast than in Ghana, an equation not missed by farmers or smuggling networks in the region. Now, cacao is the starting point of the creation of chocolate. And after a long period of erratic weather in West Africa, global wholesale prices have tripled in a year, and farmers say that they still feel shortchanged. Brian Quinn tells us more.
A seasonal assembly for Ivory Coast's cacao producers. They've gathered to learn the official price for the next growing season. In coordination with neighboring Ghana, that price is going up 20% over the last harvest to 1,800 CFA francs, or 2.7 euros per kilo. The Farmers' Union greeting the decision with a cautious welcome.
20% is significant. It means the Coffee Cacao Council will be able to offer universal health coverage. That's what's important.
Cacao produces cocoa beans, the main ingredient in chocolate. Ivory Coast accounts for some 45% of the world's production, a sector that represents 14% of the West African nation's GDP. Unlike liberalized cocoa markets like that of neighboring Cameroon, Ivory Coast sets harvest prices in advance. The practice protects farmers from crashes, but it can also prevent them from cashing in. Erratic weather this year linked to El Niño and climate change has sent production down and prices way up. The price of cocoa has risen 170% on a yearly basis in London, topping $10,000 per ton in New York. That's meant big profits for middlemen, but Ivorian farmers say wholesale prices need to be even higher to keep up with their cost of living. They wanted €3 per kilo.
In other countries like Cameroon, the price is going up daily. The price set here is not what we, the farmers, were hoping for.
Cacao farming represents an estimated 1 million jobs in Ivory Coast, providing a living to 5 million people.
Now, in Kenya, a skeleton billed as being the oldest complete human remains ever found are at the heart of the country's latest tourism campaign. The Welcome Home drive features the Turkana Boy as a symbol of the country's positioning as the cradle of all humanity. But people living near where the archaeological treasure was actually found say that they feel sidelined. Olivia Bizo tells us more.
In the heart of Kenya's most remote region, this monument marks the spot where a 1.6 million-year-old skeleton was found. Known as Turkana Boy, the original remains are locked away in Nairobi, much to the dismay of locals who are frustrated nothing is being done to bring the skeleton back.
When they built this monument in 2019, they promised more infrastructure. 5 years later, there are no paved roads, no hotels, nothing. There needs to be more investment because it's very important to us.
Nariokotomi residents had hoped their village would become a tourist destination. But years later, locals like Kevin are still struggling to access basic services.
We wish that the skeleton will come here so that it may help us. The ones that the skeleton was taken from are not getting any benefits. So I would wish that that skeleton will be brought back and the museum to be allocated here in this place, and that's where things will be okay.
In 2023, President William Ruto promised to invest almost €200,000 in Turkana. Local politicians hope this money will be used to transform the region into the archaeological hub they've long been promised.
This is just a small kind of discoveries that were made by researchers and not by government itself. Now that the government is involved and is going to put a lot of money into research to make sure a lot of discoveries have been made so that we have a lot of what Turkana Lake Basin holds for the world.
A task force is expected to publish a report in March 2025 to identify the best ways of attracting visitors and economic growth to the region.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now, but thanks for joining us and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.